welcome and good evening to this, our Christmas Eve Candlelight service. Whether you are joining us here in the sanctuary or online, we're just so glad that we could have this time and this celebration together. I'm the Reverend Larry Piers, minister at First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, and joining me in leading the service this evening is Catherine Williamson, our Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth, Kathy Harris, our Music Director, Tracy Spinka-Doms, our Worship Associate and her family, and our AV team lead, John Claney, who is up in the booth along with the rest of the team. Just a quick reminder, let's lean in a little bit as I give you this reminder. Lean in. Keep your mask on over your nose the whole time, okay? We will not be singing the carols. That's hard. It's going to be really hard, so shake it out now, okay? It's hard. You're going to just have this natural impulse to want to sing, but because of our COVID restrictions, we ask that you hum or move your body in whatever expressive way that you want during the carols. We want to have you stay with your households, and we won't be gathering after the service at all. Sorry, but that won't take the sting out of our celebration. It'll just make us more relentless in celebrating and being with one another this evening. So Merry Christmas, and may the blessings of this season bring you joy and grace and peace.
I will light candles this Christmas.
Candles of joy despite all sadness.
Candles of hope where despair keeps watch.
Candles of courage for fears ever present.
Candles of peace for tempest-tossed days.
Candles of grace to ease heavy burdens.
Candles of love to inspire all my living.
Candles that will burn all the year long. And so we light this chalice with joy, with hope, with courage, with peace, and with grace and love as our guiding lights.
foretold. When with the ever-circling years comes round the age of gold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendor spring, and the whole world sends back the song which now the angels sing.
Our reading this evening, In the Darkness of Winter, is by Suzelle Lynch. In the darkness of the winter, quiet hearts beneath the sky, we are waiting for the day star and a holy newborn's cry. Friends and family here have gathered here from near and far, sharing hearts and hands and laughter in the soft light of the star. Legend tells us of a baby born to those whose hearts were free, scared and lonely, traveling onward, seeking shelter endlessly. Ancient story of rejoicing names the baby born that night as a savior for all earthbound, bringing hope and joy and light. But who is this holy baby legends say was born this night? Do we seek a newborn savior? Could a child bring so much light? We who gather know the secret of the Savior long foretold. He's a blessing deep within us. She's a gift within our soul. Every night a child is born, we know the spark of holiness. Every person has within them hope and love and tenderness. In the darkness of the winter, quiet hearts beneath the sky, we are waiting for the day star and a holy newborn's cry.
Sing we now of Christmas, Noel sing we here. Hear our grateful praises to the babe so dear. Sing we Noel, the child is born Noel. Sing we now of Christmas, sing we now Noel. Angels call to shepherds, leave your flocks at rest. Journey forth to Bethlehem, find the babe so blessed. Sing we Noel, the child is born Noel. Sing we now of Christmas, sing we now Noel. In the town they found him, Joseph and Mary mild, seated by the manger, watching the holy child. Sing we Noel, the child is born Noel. Sing we now of Christmas, sing we now Noel.
Today's ancient reading is from Luke in the Christian Bible. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." When the angels left them and had gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told.
In the big midwinter, frosty wind made moan, I stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow, snow, snow on snow. In the big midwinter, long ago. Our God and never told him, nor us sustain. Heaven and earth shall flee away when he comes to reign. In the bleak midwinter, a stable place sufficed. The Lord God Almighty, Jesus Christ. Angels and archangels, they have gathered there. Cherubim and seraphim, throng the air. But only his mother in the maidens. Virgin loving mother, in our kiss. What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what I can
Today I am sharing a story by Christina Villa called The Light Shines in the Darkness. If you are joining us in the sanctuary, there are coloring books with the story and crowns for you to use to follow along. Lily and Max were so excited for their Christmas Eve celebration. They lived with their dad and grandma on a farm far from the city. Outside, there were no street lights or traffic lights. There was only the light of the moon and the stars. Yummy smells came from the kitchen as their dad prepared a Christmas Eve dinner they would share with their neighbors and friends. And Lily and Max were told not to go upstairs. Grandma was wrapping presents. There were ribbons, bows, and wrapping paper everywhere. Outside in the barn, the cows and the sheep and the chickens slept peacefully as the snow began to fall. When the doorbell rang, Lily raced to open the door. Mr. Winkowski, their very old and very shy neighbor, arrived. "I made you a fruitcake," he said, handing Lily an odd-shaped but brightly wrapped package. Then a whole group of friends from church arrived. Marta, Darius, Jasmine, Joshua, and Dave all piled in. Last to arrive was Mr. Nunez, Lily's and Max's school principal. It was his first Christmas in their town, and he didn't know very many people. Everyone was taking off their coats and hats and scarves when suddenly the lights on the tree and the entire house flickered and went out. "Uh-oh," said Dad. "What happened?" cried Lily. Everyone stood there, adjusting their eyes to the darkness. Lily said, "It sure doesn't feel like Christmas without the lights on the tree. When are they coming back on?" "Maybe we should all go home," said Marta. Everyone was disappointed. But then Max had an idea. "Wait, before you leave, let's all go outside. We can look at the stars and maybe sing a Christmas carol." Outside, the moon and stars were so bright that everyone could see clearly, just like daytime, but different. Everyone stood silently for a while, taking in the night sky. "Let's see, what should we sing? Suggestions?" asked Darius. Darius was the choir director at church, and he loved to get people singing. Then, very quietly, Mr. Winkowski started to sing. "Silent night, holy night. All is calm," the others joined in. "All is bright." Some of the animals in the barn woke up, lifted their heads, and joined in the singing. "Wow, this kind of feels like Christmas," said Lily. "I know what you mean," said Mr. Nunez. "It feels exactly like Christmas." "The light of the moon and stars feels like love coming into the world," said Jasmine. "And the shepherds probably followed light just like this when they went to visit the baby Jesus in the manger," said Max. Then, suddenly, the lights came back on. Everyone cheered. Mr. Winkowski said, "You know, it's not the lights on the Christmas tree that make Christmas special. I wonder, what makes Christmas special for you?"
Joy to the world, the world come. Let earth with praises ring. Let every heart prepare our room. And feminine nature sing. And feminine nature sing. When nature sing. Joy to the earth, now gladness reigns. Let hearts and songs employ, while fields and floods, while hills and plains, repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. No voice sings and stars go, nor thorns infest the ground. Let righteousness its glory show, and far and long and found, and found, as far as love is found.
Tonight is a night to live within the mystery of story, the wonder of music, and the awe of candlelight. We tell the familiar Christmas story and sing, well, this year hum the Christmas carols and light candles to honor this holy night. Christmas has become a universal celebration of the endurance of light, even in the midst of darkness, of resilient joy in spite of it all, and courage to proclaim peace and goodwill to all humankind, echoing the centuries-old cry and a relentless aspiration. Like a sponge, I can imagine each of us, individually and collectively, wanting to take in more light, joy, peace, and goodwill that as much as we can this year. Now, if you want to get technical, there have always been several variations on the Christmas story, the telling of the story. Catherine read Luke's version of the story to us. Matthew and Luke actually composed different stories on how the announcement was made about Jesus' pending death, birth, and to whom, wrong holiday, and who showed up to celebrate Jesus' arrival, whether angels sing, shepherds gathered, or whether wise men visited. And the Gospels of Mark and John, they don't even mention the birth narrative at all. We tend to blend all the stories together in our Christmas pageants and our nativity scenes, but who cares? There's no need for us to get technical about the Christmas story on Christmas Eve. This is a time to experience the story as story and to do no reality testing necessarily. However, I must say a little reality testing would have really come in handy in one incident as described in this meme that I saw this week. Mary, exhausted, having just gotten Jesus to sleep, is approached by a young man who thinks to himself, what this girl needs is a little drum solo. Yes, that little drummer definitely needs to be told, get real and get lost. We all know the nativity story is not a news story from the Bethlehem Times, nor was it ever intended to be. As a story, it invites us and reminds us that we are more than a distillation of facts. We are creatures of meaning. These stories are parables that elicit multiple meanings for us at different times. We enter the same stories, year after year, just as we enter the stories of Passover or Easter, Hanukkah or Christmas, again and again. And I'd like to say, because we can never step into the same story twice. Each time we enter a story, we are different. The world around us is different, and our human spirit has its own particular angst or anxiety, happenstance, or hope. That is certainly the case on Christmas Eve 2021. A way that I was able to step into the story of Christmas when I was a child was to act in a Christmas pageant. Anyone else been in a Christmas pageant somewhere and sometime in their life? Great. So I think I aspired to be an angel, but I had to settle with being a shepherd. But you got to start somewhere, right? So another way to step in the story that I remember is when I was old enough, maybe 6 or so, I was allowed to set up the nativity set under the tree. Now, by the age of 6, I knew that all these objects were not just a random collection of figurines. They told a story. Of course, to my 6-year-old mind, each figure had its correct place. The creche or the crib for the baby Jesus belonged in the center. And of course, on the left side was the mother, Mary. And of course, on the right side, the father, Joseph. Well, then the animals, I just figured they could almost be anywhere as long as they were making space for providing warmth for this newborn baby in this humble stable. I always placed the shepherds just a little further away because they had to leave their fields at night and make their journey in the dark towards this stable scene. And far off, in the distance, following a star, I placed the so-called 3 wise men. I remember actually being very fascinated by those 3 wise men, their costumes, and the fact that they had to ride on camels. What would it be like to ride a camel and only have a star to guide you? What was it like to discover that once they arrived, the person that they were seeking was a child born in a very humble place, a stable? Setting up the nativity scene was almost complete when I placed the angel at the top of the stable. Almost, I say, because in my home it was only on Christmas Eve that the figure of the infant Jesus was actually placed in the creche, waiting for the right moment to add the baby Jesus to the scene was part of the drama of the story. I remember really liking being responsible for setting up the nativity scene. I could display a kind of visual knowledge of the story, and I loved imagining being there in the story, the magic and the wonder that transported me across time and across centuries. There were glimmers of mystery in this story from long ago that I did not have to make sense of, only experience as a story. I was to learn later in life that this particular nativity set was not just any nativity set. My mother had received it as a gift from her relatives in Naples, Italy. Relatives she was not to see again after leaving Italy when she was 20. As some of you may know, nativity scenes and elaborate artistic figurines are a tradition in Naples that continue to this day. So my casual play of setting up the nativity set, or the presepio in Italian, were perhaps for my mother a much deeper experience, a connection to memories and to a place and to people who still probably seemed like real home to her. Her enjoyment of seeing me set up the Presepio, that nativity scene, was also probably bittersweet for her, reminding of her home and family and her childhood in Naples. I believe that there's really something comforting and reassuring in setting up a nativity scene. It provides a reconnection with a familiar story, and we know where everything belongs, and we know how the story will unfold. And yet, as we know, real life is not always so orderly or so tidy. I suspect some of you know that in Philadelphia for more than 30 years, there'd been a live nativity at Old First Church in the Old City. 2 weeks before Christmas, live animals started arriving. Real sheep and goats, a cow, and a donkey. Live animals. They were all part of a real live display in a stable that was set up on the church grounds. Well, everything was alive, except that there were human mannequins, like figures, that stood in for Mary, Joseph, and shepherds and the wise men until Christmas Eve. And then members of the congregation would play the role of Mary or Joseph or the shepherds. And of course, a baby from the congregation would be the baby Jesus. Isn't that sweet? Did you hear that a few years ago, however, there was an incident that disrupted this particular live nativity scene? It's true. Stormy the cow escaped from this live nativity scene. There were reports that Stormy was walking down I-95 south towards Collow Hill Street, and Stormy was rounded up by a state trooper on horseback who brought him back to this live nativity scene at Old First Church. Then, can you believe it? At 6:30 a.m., Stormy the cow escaped again. This time, she made it down Race Street and to the upper level of a parking lot on 4th and Race. The headlines read that year, "Cow escapes from church nativity again." Now, I even heard a rumor that Stormy was coordinating the donkey, the sheep, and the goats for a triumphant dance down Broad Street before being apprehended. I'm just not so sure if this rumor is true, but Marion, do you know anything about this planned dance down Broad Street with the escapee animals? Give me a thumbs. Oh, she's not going to confess. Okay. Well, Marion, if you were part of that, I would have certainly have joined you in that dance. To avoid any more unfortunate, chaotic incidents that gave the church unwelcome publicity and made its neighbors unhappy, Old First Church at 4th and Race Streets had to scale down its nativity scene. This year, its nativity scene exists of a display of painted plywood figures of Mary and Joseph in the barnyard animals, including the cow, especially the cow. I guess nothing can go wrong with plywood figures. So, on this Christmas Eve, I suspect that there's a part of us that likes the more placid nativity scene. Every figure has its place and is in place, and the story is told and retold in a predictable way. We often crave order, less disruption, and more of what is familiar. And I suspect there's another part of us that finds some joy and humor in the live nativity scene that had its own elements of unexpected surprise that was disrupted by an uppity cow named Stormy. We can imagine the dismay and delight of this escaped cow on I-95. So my hope for us is, may our soul on this Christmas Eve find both comfort in the familiar, the known, but also find delight in unexpected joys as well. Another kind of disruption actually happened at Christmas time in 1855. A Unitarian minister and musician, John Sullivan Dwight, translated the verses of O Holy Night, a song that we will soon hear being sung. He translated them from French into English. And he did it to take a familiar story and give it some new meaning to awaken the social consciousness of others. This French carol became a favorite of Christian abolitionists who, like Reverend Dwight, saw enslavement as evil that severely contradicted the meaning of the Christmas story. He added this verse to the song. Truly, he taught us to love one another. His law is love and his gospel is peace. Chains he shall break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Those were radical words to include in a Christmas carol in 1855. Can we dare to imagine our connection to the cries of the ages? Can we dare to imagine that not only is a child born, but the birth of a new humanity wants to happen as well? A new humanity that when we sing peace on earth, we mean peace on earth. A new humanity so that when we sing goodwill to all, we mean goodwill to all. A possibility of the birth of a new humanity is the implicit and universal message of this Christmas story. The message is we can start again. We can incarnate a new humanity. This was the message of the prophets, including the prophet Jesus. Tonight, may we dare to imagine angels like the messengers they were, singing into the dark night. And may we strain to hear them singing within ourselves as well. With the inspiration of a child's birth, may we also welcome the birth of courage and hope. May we persist with joy and perseverance, with delight and even dismay. May we look at the world as it is. And may we also declare a world that can be. Even as we point to the darkness of the night, may we dare to declare, O holy night, the stars are brightly shining. O holy night, the stars are brightly shining.
Divine. the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, all night divine, all night when Christ was born. All night divine, all night, divine.
This reading, For So the Children Come, is by Sophia Lyon-Foss. For so the children come, and so they have been coming. Always in the same way they come. Born of the seed of loving parents, no angels herald their beginnings. No prophets predict their future courses. No wise men see a star to show where to find the babe that will save humankind. Yet each night a child is born is a holy night. Loving parents sitting beside their children's cradles feel glory in the sight of a new life beginning. They ask, where and how will this new life end? Or will it ever end? Each night a child is born is a holy night, a time for singing, a time for wondering, a time for worshiping.
Tonight we have a special collection which will benefit the racial and social justice programs of the YWCA. Here is a short video introduced by Becca Cotto, the director, explaining the programs and how they help our community.
My name is Becca Cotto, and I'm the Director of Racial and Social Justice at YWCA, Delaware. Our relationship with First U has been instrumental in the growth of our racial justice programs. Today's special collection is greatly appreciated. However, our relationship doesn't stop there. We have partnered together on many racial justice programs. Some of you are trained facilitators, some of you are board members, and quite a few of you I consider personal friends. I look forward to our supporting relationship in the years to come, and I'm proud to be in the fight for a more just and equitable society with all of you. I'm wishing you all that celebrate a happy holiday and peaceful new year for everyone. Thank you.
said I was pretty for a brown girl. Because I couldn't just be pretty, no. Something was holding me back from that title, and it was brown skin. But they don't know the burden of trying to meet society's standard of beauty.
The program itself is really implemented to teach kids and encourage kids how to use their voice in the communities as change makers, organizers, activists. We focus around 3 core areas, which are identity, race, and culture.
You see a lot of yourself within them, and so with that, it helps them to relate. So it opens them up to where, okay, I'm not the only one, that's growing up in a single parent home. I'm not the only one whose father or mother, got deported. I'm not the only one, that's here and, in a foreign country from somewhere else.
By the end, the kids were engaged. We shared tears, we shared laughter, we shared personal stories. Just to see them become so personal with us and let us into their space was just amazing.
Today we recognize in particular that structural racism is a fundamental cause of racial health inequities, and we call for public policy to align with public health for all people, not just some people. Social determinants of health, housing, education, income, employment, healthy neighborhoods, and access to quality health care have a major impact on physical and mental health.
There are 4 ways you can give to support this special collection. They are highlighted on the screen. You can give your gift electronically using either the Vanco app or on your smart device, or donate directly through our website. You can mail a check to the church using the address shown on the screen and indicating that it is for the special collection. Or lastly, for those present in the sanctuary, you can leave your gift in the donation box at the rear of the sanctuary. Please join me now in dedicating our offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Solstice by Reverend Gary Kowalski. Night has its own kind of beauty, different than the beauty of day. Night is a time of sleep and dreams and inward visions, a time of pause within activity. Darkness is an invitation to imagining and storytelling, and to using ears instead of eyes, to listen to the world in its stillness. Darkness is the den of life in all germination, and darkness is the portal of death that opens to eternity. The mystery of all time past and endless time to come. At the center of our being, there is light and there is darkness, the known and the unknown, the named and the nameless, the finite and the infinite. Light and dark are different, but not opposed to each other. Like a mother and father, they are friends with one another and with us.
So soon we will move into our candle lighting and the sharing of candlelight. We have a safety video that we want to show now as we begin. Before we do our candle lighting ritual together this evening, Catherine and I want to demonstrate to you just a few safety tips. In order to light your candle from someone else's lit candle, you must tip your candle towards their lit flame, hold your candle upright again, and then the person next to you will do the same. Now, in order to blow out our candles when I give that instruction, what we will do is lower our mask briefly below our chin, blow out the candle, and then return your mask over your nose. Catherine, could you review that one more time?
Yeah, let's see if I've got those instructions. So I'm going to tilt my candle and put my wick in the flame. If it's a new wick, it might take a little while. Then I hold it back up straight. I turn to the person next to me so they can light their candle. When Reverend Larry tells us it's time to blow our candles out, we will lower our mask below our chin, give a little puff, and then pull our mask back up over our nose. I think we've got it.
Good. Thank you. So now is the moment of magic, when people beaten down and broken with nothing left but misery and candles and their own clear voices kindle tiny lights and whisper secret music. And here's a blessing. The dark universe is suddenly illumined by the lights we hold, and the whole world is glad and loud with winter singing. Now is the moment of magic, when an eastern star beckons us all towards an unknown goal. And here's a blessing. They find nothing in the end but an ordinary baby born at midnight, born in poverty, and the baby's cry like bells ringing make people wonder as they wander through their lives what human love might really look like, sound like, feel like. Now is the moment of magic. And here's a blessing. We already possess all the gifts we need. We've already received our presents, ears to hear music, eyes to behold lights, hands to build true peace on earth, and to hold each other tight in love. And so with the simple sharing of candlelight, we declare once more that the dark universe is suddenly illuminated by the lights we hold. In a few moments, as we pass this flame among us, please be careful with the open flame. Don't stand too close behind someone else. And receive your flame in the very way that Tracy just demonstrated. We will sing, please stand as we pass this light, and soon we will sing Silent Night together. As the lights turn out and the music begins, so let us hold our flames high in the sky as if these are stars shining in the darkest of night. Let radiate from us hope and love and peace that will carry us through the days ahead and into the new year. And think for a moment the places in your life, the places in the world that need more light, more love, more compassion, and more justice. And before we blow out our candles in the way that was thoroughly demonstrated to you, let's hold those places around the world, those places in our own life, in our own heart, for just a moment. Lowering your mask below your... Great. So following this benediction, we will leave the sanctuary quietly. You'll find a place in the back to put your candles, and we'll allow this the darkness of the sanctuary allow us to move to the darkness of the night and carry with it a sense of the holy that is present both in dark and in light. So these words by Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, and to make music in the heart. So may it be.